Hey, what's up? So, shout out to a commenter, Methu Sharavi 5136. Sorry if I butchered your name there, but she left a comment asking me to, I guess, talk a little bit about AI and about this podcast in particular. So yeah, once again, thanks so much for commenting, and thank you everyone else who comments as well. It makes me feel like at least three people are watching this video, so that's amazing. So thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. So yeah, I listened to this podcast. It was like 2 hours long. And the podcast guest was actually this guy named Mo Gaudat, who actually wrote a book a while back, and it was a crazy story. Like I can't remember the details, but his son passed away unexpectedly at a very young age, and he writes a whole book about how his life was after that and how to be happy essentially. And one thing I remember from that book, reading it, was like he talked a lot about how your thoughts are not you, and you have to be able to separate your thoughts from you. And then he talked a lot about thoughts as well, which is kind of in line with what I was talking about in my other videos. But anyways, he's like an ex Google guy that I guess he was like head of some department that started the AI machine learning program. But he has a lot of thoughts on like where AI is going. And to summarize it down, I think like the main points I got from it was, hey, AI is expanding very quickly. There isn't any way to stop it because no one's going to stop developing. We aren't really having the safeguards in place, and it's eventually like really bad things are going to happen. For some context, I said ChatGPT 4 right now is about equivalent to a human with 160 IQ, and then ChatGPT 5 will be like 10x that within a few months, right? And then he says there's going to be a world where, you know, AI is going to be a billion times smarter than a human. That's for sure going to happen, and we need to be able to control that somehow. And it seems like most of his fears are not so much AI is going to become like the Terminator, where it's just going to start like having these killing machines, but it's more like humans are going to be able to use AI to do bad things to each other, and he thinks that is like very, very likely. And you can't stop it because like Google's not going to stop developing AI because then they're going to be behind, right? So it's kind of like an arms race that is going to for sure get to a point where bad things are going to happen. So yeah, that was really interesting. So what I actually did as I took the transcript from the YouTube video and I fed it back into ChatGPT. It was like 50 pages um, of text though. So then I had to feed it in like 10 pages at a time. But essentially, here's a screenshot of the summary of what it said. I'm not sure if it really captures the exact point of what he was trying to say, but I mean, it was kind of cool that ChatGPT was able to do this. Um, yeah. So then, I think like as far as my thoughts on this, like I obviously have no idea like what AI is gonna be. I don't really like um you know have any expertise in this. So I probably can't speak on like, hey, what's the future gonna be like. But he talks a lot about, hey, the future is different. For sure, it's gonna be different. For sure gonna be different. But then like if you think about like, I don't know if you guys ever watched this movie. There's a movie with Iron Man guy. It was Sherlock Holmes. In Sherlock Holmes, one of the more recent ones, like there was this new technology, and the technology was like a remote control, right? And that was going to change the world, which I guess it did. Is like, they couldn't fathom the idea of pressing a button and having something else happen with someone not in the room, right? And then they said like radio was going to change the world, or like like radio was going to corrupt people's minds because there's too much information or whatever. Obviously, the internet changed the world, so obviously the world changes all the time. Is this change going to be so dramatic that like um, is this change going to be so dramatic that it's like a even bigger step? Probably. And from our perspective, for sure, right? Because we're kind of used to everything. But I mean, I I I think that the things are just going to change, and it's not necessarily going to be bad. But a lot of jobs are definitely going to get displaced. I think that's for sure. So from what I'm learning, what I took away from this talk was he mentioned, hey, AI is going to replace jobs, but the first thing he said was AI is going to be replaced by jobs not by AI, but people that know how to use AI, right? So that's going to be the first step. So what I'm suggesting is that you learn how to use AI, because then, um, like you're in a better position in the market to keep a job for longer, and maybe your job will get replaced at some point, but at least you'll have the ability. And from what I'm gathering, like at least for now, like you basically just need to be able to learn how to prompt ChatGPT, right? So just be really good at prompting and just writing prompts. I can give you some tips. Like I've dabbled in it a little bit. I'm not obviously I'm not like super good at it, but like an example is like um, a really basic example is like, okay, so like for example, I was trying to figure out what's wrong with my toilet, and my toilet had basically like I was replacing the flapper, which is the thing that goes up and down in the back of the toilet bowl. I turned the water off, and then when I turned the water back on, I didn't turn it on all the way. So then like when I turned it on halfway, it would just like it started vibrating. Like the pipe started vibrating because there was only a little bit of water coming in, probably air. I couldn't figure it out, and then so I typed into Google. It's like, hey, how I typed into ChatGPT. I was like, hey, what does it mean when your pipes vibrate? And it just gives you very, very like generic answers. Like it's kind of like someone. It's kind of like one of those like SEO pages where like some plumber writes these things, top 5 things wrong with your toilet on your website, and then like they try to like get you to submit a lead or something, right? But then if you like replace that question with, hey, imagine if you are a plumber and like you're a world-class plumber that's trying to diagnose an issue, please help me diagnose this question and ask me questions to figure out what's wrong. And then it would basically ask me questions. And eventually it got to the point where it figured out that I was not turning the knob all the way. But by the time I figured that out, it was already the next day. So I already figured out that was a problem, but I was able to get it to tell me that answer. So that was pretty impressive. So I would say like, hey, like if you're not at least trying to understand how this prompting thing works, you can at least start there. And then it's pretty impressive like what ChatGPT can do. And I was gonna say, oh yeah, so like in terms of job replacement, it's like yeah, like right now, let's say you're a company, right? Would you hire a new intern to do like basically grunt work, or would you just rather have someone to use ChatGPT to do it? Because like ChatGPT can do a lot of basic tasks, right? So I think there's gonna be a lot of jobs that get lost. I guess it's gonna start from the bottom, right, and then it's gonna move up. But yeah, I feel bad for like the kids that are graduating. I feel bad and excited for the kids that are graduating nowadays, because like a lot of those jobs are gonna be replaced. But at the same time, you have so much more opportunity of what you can do with ChatGPT too, right? So yeah, it's kind of interesting. But another thing I want to share about ChatGPT, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's not relevant to this at all, because I mean, from my perspective, like in terms of the fear of, hey, the world's gonna change and everyone's gonna die and whatever. Like from my perspective, like, hey, me as a person, I can't do anything about it, and I'm not gonna worry about it, but I'm going to try to take advantage of ChatGPT or whatever to the best of my abilities, which is basically just learn how to use it, right? And just understand it, because that'll put me in a better, more competitive in the market. But at the same time, it's like I'm not like like Mo is talking about, hey, we should petition our government to like stop this stuff or whatever. I'm like, yeah, like I don't know, realistically it's probably not gonna happen. So I'm more in the vein of, hey, how's it gonna help me personally, which is kind of fucked up, but I mean that's just how I think about it. But yeah, one thing I want to share about, I guess it was more Bard. It was just such a generic question. It was like I was watching this show on Netflix. It was a show about boxers. What is it called? Netflix show about boxers. It was like a Korean show. I guess it's not even important. But basically, it's about these two. Oh, it's called Bloodhounds. So like I was watching this show called Bloodhounds, right? And then like there's this female lead character in it, and then for those like first 3 or 4 episodes, she's like kind of important to the story, and then all of a sudden I just noticed her like just disappear, and then like I didn't realize she was even in it until they added this random girl towards the end of the show, and I was like, dude, I wonder what happened with this girl that like why isn't she in the show anymore? But like, how do you even find that answer out? Because it's such a random thing. So I basically just asked Bard, like Google Bard. I was like, hey, what's that Korean show called? What's that Korean show about these two guys? And oh, it's this show. And then I said, okay, within this show, what happened to that lead actress? And then they basically just told me, oh, that girl ended up getting like a DUI or something, and then she got like canceled in Korea, so she wasn't on the show anymore. But like that kind of level of complexity of trying to understand like certain things, like such a specific question, and it was able to tell me the answer. So I thought that was really interesting. Cool. So I hope this video was interesting. I probably didn't provide any additional information other than over what that other guy had, but yeah, appreciate your comment and see you next video. Thanks.